Hello, everybody. Welcome to the National Qigong Association's QiTalks. I'm so glad you've joined us. Today is April 9th, 2015. I'm Vicki Della Gioio. I'm usually the host here for QiTalks. Today we have a super special treat, which we've got a guest host, Mark R. Reinhardt, is going to be hosting tonight's teleclass. If you're a regular listener, thank you so much for coming back every month, and you're part of what makes this program work really well. And if you're joining us for the first time, a special welcome to you. I'm really glad you decided to take some time this evening to connect with us and join us for this very special telesummit with Mark Johnson. I'm going to be delighted to welcome Mark Reinhardt speaking with Mark Johnson in just a moment. But before I do, for those of you especially who are new, I want to take a moment just to introduce to you this monthly telesummit, what it is, who we are, how you can participate in our session. So QiTalks is a monthly event. It's sponsored by the National Qigong Association, also known as the NQA. And these virtual classes that we do monthly are free to the general public and are part of our organization's mission to educate people about the benefits of practicing Qigong through public education and scientific research. The NQA offers national, regional, and local conferences and events. In fact, we have something coming up soon for the for the World Tai Chi Qigong Day. So there are a lot of regional conferences happening across the country. I'll probably talk about that a little bit this evening. And we consistently look for different and innovative ways to expand both information and networking for both Qigong professionals, people who teach or are practitioners, as well as the general population who love Qi practices. So I wanted to give you, before we actually start the hour, give you a couple of guidelines on how you can participate this evening. As you've probably heard, your line is right now it's muted to protect the sound quality. This minimizes the static and other external noises because otherwise it can get pretty bad. But that's the only reason you're on mute. It's not because we don't want to hear from you during this call. In fact, I really believe that some of our very best QiTalks have happened when people who've been listening participate and speak with the guest and have questions or have their own input. So we'd love to hear whatever your thoughts are. I think it's part of what makes this community really successful. So here are the different ways that you can communicate. There's basically a couple. Mark Johnson's going to be presenting first, and then we're going to open up a discussion, a Q&A time. So while Mark and Mark are speaking during the first part of the program, if you have a question or a comment that you'd like to share, you can so-called raise your hand. I'm going to put quotes around that. You press *6 on your phone, and what happens then is your name shows up on a queue, and we'll be able to unmute you when we get to the Q&A part of the session, which will happen a little bit later. But even though you won't be unmuted until later, you can raise your hand any time. So you don't have to wait if you have something that you feel like you want to say or participate with. Just go ahead and raise your hand. That way we're going to be able to see you, and you'll be automatically put in a first-come, first-served line of folks who are wanting to speak. So again, you're going to press *6 as soon as you have a thought or a question that you'd like to share. And if you're somebody who feels like you don't really want to speak, you can send an email to QiTalks@nqa.org. I'll get that message to Mark. And if you want to have your name acknowledged, mention that. And if you prefer not to have your name, we'll ask your question for you. And the third way that you can participate is through Facebook. And my QiTalks, I don't quite know what's going on here. Okay, I'm going to be going behind. I'm going to go behind the scenes tonight because I'm not hosting. I'll be operating the Facebook page. So if you're somebody who uses Facebook, it's a great place because you can be putting questions and comments there, and it's also a way that you can communicate with one another about the things that you're hearing on the call. So to do that, you go to facebook.com, and then it's a / national.qigong, which is QIGONG Association, so national.qigong.association, and that way I'll be able to see those your comments and be able to include those as well in tonight's talk. So please, I'm going to just ask, please do participate in any of these ways, pressing *6 to speak, sending an email, posting on Facebook, especially if you're somebody who's a little bit shy about speaking up. It's always useful if you bring a question or your own experience because you may be saying something that other people are curious about or want to know and haven't quite had the courage to say themselves. So go ahead and feel free to participate. The session's going to last about an hour, so I do want to encourage you to stay tuned for the entire show because, as always, both our guest, Mark Johnson, and Mark Mark Reinhardt, representing the NQA, are going to be offering some special gifts to everyone on the live call, so don't want to miss those. So at this point, I'd like to pass the baton over to Mark Reinhardt and say an extra special welcome to our guest tonight, Mark Johnson.
Thank you, Vicki. Hello, everybody. Before Vicki heads off, I think you're doing what? You're calling a square dance tonight or something like that? I just want to thank Vicki because this is actually our third anniversary show of QiTalks, and this was her baby. And we started this way back in April of 2012. And it has probably been one of the most successful endeavors that we've been doing with the National Qigong Association for a while. So everybody, clap your hands. We know you're clapping out there for Vicki. Great job. And,
thank you.
Okay, there you go. So,
all right, let's go.
Thanks, Vicki. And I'd like to just take a moment here, and this is very exciting for me to be hosting this. It's a lot of pressure. I feel like the first time I'm landing airplanes for air traffic control here, and thank you, Vicki, for trusting me with this for tonight. Hope we don't crash anything. But anyway, tonight we're featuring Mark Johnson. Mark Johnson has been a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine for a while now, with the National Qigong Association. And it's kind of like an honor for me to work with him because he was hanging out with a lot of people who were writing the books that I was reading when I got involved in a lot of these practices. So he's so much older than I am. Not really, but just a little bit about his background. I'm sure you've all read about his various background and how he came up through the whole thing. We could probably spend an entire several days on what he's done. So I'm just going to throw out a couple things and ask him to talk about a couple things. And then, like I said, if anybody has a question, by all means, chime in. We're going to talk for a while. But, Mark, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Very good.
And did you say I'm going to have to limit myself to several days?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. How about weeks?
About weeks, right. So probably the best thing that I'd like to start off with is just a couple little anecdotal things from like how you got started in all of this and some of the other stories from your early days, because you're a fellow Pennsylvania person. You were born in central Pennsylvania. So
yeah.
Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to get out of here and go west.
I left high school the night of graduation and never went back. That's
okay.
What I thought of central Pennsylvania. It was a coal mining town. My dad owned the mine, so I was, upper crust in a very poverty-stricken area. But my friends who heard me derailing the state for years said, Mark, the only reason you have such contempt for the area is that you suffer from delusions of adequacy. I love that line.
That was good.
I remember that all my life. But I did. I didn't like central Pennsylvania. And I went to West Coast and, all around the world eventually. And I'm still on the West Coast of California. So here I am. I don't like cold weather, basically.
Well, there's plenty of that over here. So, your varied career, you have been teaching and doing this is something that just popped into my head. When was the first time you put out the Tai Chi for, I think it started out as Tai Chi for seniors, I believe?
Yes.
When did you record that?
1989.
1989. So that's one of the older ones.
Strong, which is amazing.
And you were pretty active with Tai Chi out in the community. You studied with an amazing number of masters and teachers and things. And I suggest everybody, I think Mark's going to be doing a little something about his book. I suggest everybody getting a copy and reading about his background because it's pretty interesting. Anecdotal stuff. How about your time with teaching Tai Chi with the movie stars?
That was in 82. And
okay.
I was there not only for one movie, but for two movies. It was with Francis Ford Coppola and all the stars of that day. A lot of people likened that particular movie, The Outsiders, as being a kind of a phenomenon in that most of the major stars alive today were young and unknown in that movie. There must be 15 of them that have gone to superstardom, and at that time when I knew them, they were the complete nobodies, and we had a lot of fun, no big egos, no one was even married yet. We just had a lot of fun. I enjoyed them. But overall, I soon became aware that those fools were more interested in making movies than they were in learning the Tai Chi that I was bringing to.
There you go, which moved you into more internals. Yeah. When were you certified as a Tai Chi tournament judge?
In 85, I think, 1985. Okay. Yep.
And since then you have adjudicated like how many tournaments?
I think over 50 now.
Oh, okay. Very good. That's
and so I've seen everything, and I've been watching the quality going down over the years too. So,
with the practice. The other very interesting thing that and it's coming to the fore now is you have been doing a lot with the Tai Chi in Cuba. When did you start traveling to that area and spreading the word, and what was it like?
That was about 20 years ago, and I met a nice Cuban lady here. She was lecturing somewhere, and she had 3 PhDs and spoke about 8 languages. Okay. And so, of course, she got my attention just for that. But I went back to visit her. I snuck in. In those days, you had to sneak in and out, and I was really taking quite a chance, but it was worth it. And I found the people were incredible, a lot of interest, but it wasn't just Tai Chi. I was also bringing acupuncture. Ralph Allen Dale was one of the earliest acupuncturists in this country, and he invited me to come along to stress Qigong, and he would do the acupuncture part. But I got into a little bit of both. And eventually we traveled all over the island many times to the hospitals, and it caught on like wildfire because they don't have much money, and it saved them a lot of money just doing it. So it caught on quite a bit. And then
when was the last time you were back?
Last year.
Okay.
Last year
so you foresee like a market opening up there to like start spreading the word down there and do more lecturing and teaching?
Not for me personally, but I see the whole country opening up, and the fact that we are making overtures toward it, I think, is about time.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing is going to blow wide open, and I'm really glad for it. They're quite impoverished and need this, and so I'm quite hopeful about it.
Oh, that's good. And then, so I think I'm getting the chronology pretty good here. Is that when you started to get involved with the founding of the National Qigong Association? You were one of the founding fathers, I believe. Were you the guy wearing the powdered wig in the picture?
Yeah, that's right. No, it actually started with Jim McRitchie, and he was in China, and he ran into Roger Yonk, I understand, and they started talking about it, and that's where the foundation was laid, between those two. And then they both came back, and Jim started calling people he knew in the business. And, he boiled it down to 9 people actually signing the charter to get it started. But there was probably, at that point, there wasn't probably more than 20 people in the country really seriously into Qigong and Tai Chi and acupuncture. So that's how it got started.
And you've been cultivating, and this is probably one thing that I mean, myself, you always want to speak to people who have been cultivating for a long time because, everybody gets into the arts, but like any other art, you need to cultivate this for a while before you start realizing the benefits because they're so subtle. So you had your little airplane accident a little while. So how about sharing a little bit about that and how you feel that the practice you cultivated helped with your recovery? Because you made a pretty amazing recovery, from that whole thing. If anybody has seen the pictures of the ultralight, which if you didn't know it was an ultralight, you would have no idea what it was, but you survived that. So how do you?
Yes.
That's putting your cultivation into practical application. So maybe you can share a little bit about that.
That's for sure. Sure. And I haven't just been on a Tai Chi and Qigong kick. I was studied with Taoists for many years, and so I've been initiated into a sect of Taoism since '74. And so I think it's a combination of the Tai Chi, Qigong, and Taoist principles that I was living with. And I see people say, how could something like this happen to you when you're kind of flowing through life easily and everything's given to you? It's just one exciting thing after another, which is true. And I said, I don't know, but I played with it as I play with everything else. And that's the secret. People sit around and wish they had their Mercedes and visualize it and pray for it and do all that stuff. If you just open up and wake up in the morning and say, okay, universe, what do you want me to do today instead of what I want to do, And so I was trained to do that as a Taoist. And have done it for many years. I just stay open and spontaneous. Okay, right. So it happened. So I don't particularly, I don't follow my bliss. I let my bliss follow me. You know what I mean? If it's fast enough. It's got to move fast to keep up with my bliss, I'll tell you, with what I experience. And so I don't particularly care whether something's good or bad or labeled good and bad. It just happened. And I played with it like I play with everything else. And
that's good.
And I was in and out of the hospital in a few weeks or months at the most, and I used my training in all those disciplines of simply saying to my body, hey, you know how to fix yourself faster than I do, so I didn't particularly interfere with my knowledge and stuff.
You stayed out of the way, right?
Exactly. I got out of the way. And learning to be empty and out of the way takes 40 years. So that's the real accomplishment.
There you go. So what I'm hearing you say, it's like the kind of thing where, like, it's not, ask not what the universe can do for you, but ask what you can do for the universe, right? Or you can do with the universe to be part of it. So it's like the years of cultivation kind of gets you to a point where you reach a point of neutrality, and you're just there working with, not passing judgment on what happens, and whatever happens, then you work with it, maintaining your balance.
Yep.
Yeah, fascinating.
And I actually had a good time with it all. And as I do, and that's hence the title of my book called My Life as Play. It's how to play with everything that comes up, instead of trying to make things come up that you want to come up. See what I mean? Mm-hmm. Just play with it, have fun, and that's the secret.
So that sounds like a perfect question as far as now moving forward. I know you're doing a lot of trips to China and Tibet, and you're leaving when? Tomorrow morning or something?
Yeah, tomorrow for 3 weeks. Yeah.
See, earlier I when Mark and I talked earlier, I said to him, don't kind of feel like you can say whatever you want because you're leaving the country tomorrow morning. I told him to behave. So that's a little aside there for you. But this would probably be a good time to explain, because you're going to be talking about the book pretty soon, your work going forward. What are you seeing as far as the next phase for what you're going to be moving into with the practices?
My practices evolve kind of naturally. And what I taught 10 years ago, I don't teach now. They seem to get more subtle and more powerful, actually. Okay. So I'm constantly changing. I have to keep redoing the DVDs over the years to keep up with just what's coming up and coming out. And I'm planning. I'm anticipating the future will bring more of what the past brought, which is spontaneous, intuitive living.
So what are you seeing going forward for people?
The humanity in general?
Well, yeah. I mean, there was a section in your book, which we'll be talking about a little bit, as far as how people can start to approach or examine the deeper issues of what's causing the problems. You have an interesting take on that.
Yes. Well, I was taught by my teacher in the old-fashioned way. He rejected me 3 times when I asked to be a student. Kicked me out after I was already initiated. He kicked me out 3 times after that, just to see how how interested I am in all.
How committed.
Anyway, he finally did it. And what was your last question ago? That
well, as far as working with the deeper issues in people, I think you had mentioned something about the whole confronting the shadow aspect of our personality.
Yeah, that's where I'm headed. And he trained me in the way of, if somebody came up to walk to the clinic, he would say, "Tell me what's wrong with that person before they get in the door," just by watching the way they move. And so I would say, "Oh, I think it's A, B, and C." He'd say, "No, it's X, Y, and Z." And then they'd come in and they'd say, "My problem is X, Y, and Z." He got it right every time. And slowly over the years, I got a little better at it. But
so that's actually the part of the cultivation.
The part of your intuitive sense and perception and so forth. And I didn't get an ordinary training like they get in these kids today in the college and so forth. It was just the school of hard knocks and heightening my senses to be more perceptive as to what somebody is really suffering from, the deeper issues. And the more I did that, the more I saw that people were like volcanoes of repressed unconscious content that was sabotaging their lives for the most part. Right. And so I've been putting a lot of emphasis on get in touch with your shadow. It's like 80% of your energy, and you got it stuffed down to where it's sabotaging you, and it's actually trying to help you. And so a lot of what I'm doing now is, and Tai Chi does that actually. There's some breathing techniques we learned in Taoism. Breathing deep really fast and long, and somebody else came out with an adjunct to that called holotropic breathwork, that if you breathe deep and hard for about an hour or 2, it builds up the chi in your body so great that it blows out that subconscious repressed stuff that you've been holding in, and then you have to deal with it. And then you'll see that all of those elements inside yourself, your inner child, your hurt inner child, and your inner warrior, and your inner critic, and all these things, they're actually trying to help you, but they aren't aware of each other and what they're doing and the conflicts they can cause. And if they get out into the light of day, then you can get this dialogue going. You can integrate them. You can integrate 80% of your energy, and it'll work for you instead of against me, and that's what happened in my life.
So you're basically carrying all the teachers and the whole educational staff you need. You're carrying them with you. It's just a matter of accessing them and getting them to work with you.
Yeah, and they will once they get recognized and get integrated.
So would you say that that's, I guess this is just the natural progression as people start to cultivate over a long period of time, you just naturally move into these things, or you will kind of like move to teachers who will provide you with what you need? Because that sounds like what has happened with you. As you've opened things up, you're just moving through, and the teachers that you need present themselves.
That's true, yes.
Yeah.
When the
it's like you're confirming that
teacher will be there. Yep.
Yeah. And one of my favorite things, when I was early on, making contact with you and everything, it's like I would tell people I'm so honored to be a friend of Mark's because he's been thrown out of more spiritual practices than most people have ever belonged to.
That's right. I'm fairly irreverent about a lot because I've seen so much. Yeah.
This is kind of a perfect segue here that we're going to talk about your offer right now. For all the people who are on the QiTalks tonight, it's usually the tradition that the NQA and the speaker have a special offer for everybody. So, Mark Johnson, what are you offering?
I'm offering the greatest book ever written. That's what I'm offering.
And who wrote that?
Oh, me, of course.
Okay.
And it's about my life, of course, and it's all me, me, me. But the thing is, when you're one with the universe, everything is all me, me, me. know what I mean?
And you, and us.
That's right. And I won't rest until it's in every motel room in the country. And
even if you have to put it there yourself. So what are you going to offer?
Yeah. That's a good line. And I'm going with a real publisher this time. I was stupid enough to do self-publishing, and it didn't go anywhere because I don't really promote myself much.
Uh-huh.
Too busy, having my bliss chase me around.
So you're going to offer for the listeners tonight the what?
The entire book in full color.
Okay.
For nothing. All they have to do is send me their email, and I'll send it to them. But I want them to know ahead of time that this isn't a published book because there aren't even any page numbers yet. It's the way I'm presenting it to publishers.
So this is the PDF format?
Yeah, it's a PDF format.
Okay.
It's like, I think, a 220-page book with a lot of full-color photos. It's funnier than hell, and it's also... you laugh yourself silly all the time, but then you realize when you put the book down, boy, there's a message underneath all that laughter. There's a deep message, and then you go back and you read.
I read after the first National Qigong Association in California, way back at the Sillamar. You had given me a copy, and I was kind of like keeping everybody awake on the way back. I'm laughing like an idiot while I'm reading the thing. So there's a lot of people that didn't rest on the way back because of your book. So what email would you like people to send to?
Well, you might be surprised, but it has Qigong in it.
No.
So, yeah. I owe my life to Qigong.
So
literally, it's the only thing that pulled me through that action. I had my face torn off. That doesn't.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
So the email address is
Mark MARK at CHI_KUNG.com. Mark at Qigong.com. And I'll mail it out to you, and it's free. And enjoy, and I hope you learn how to play the way I play with everything that comes to you.
And because Mark is leaving the country, you're going to be gone for how long?
3 weeks. 2 weeks in China and 1 week in Tibet.
So if you want to act on this offer, send an email soon because you're leaving tomorrow.
Yeah, that's right, tomorrow night. I probably won't be able to respond in China, though. So it might just take a little longer than if you catch me tomorrow when I'm packing. So
right. Okay. And, once again, the offer that Mark says, I have received a copy of this book, and it's definitely well worth checking out. I have all 3 incarnations of this book, and this one's pretty well. It has matured like a fine wine. So it's once again it's Mark at CHI-KUNG.com. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
So what we're going to do now, it is, what time? Looks like we got 9 o'clock here. We're going to start opening this up for questions. So if you have a question, just hit *6 if you have any questions for Mark. We're just going to keep talking about stuff here until somebody pops up and asks a question, because I'm sure we have plenty of stuff we can talk about. So, it's interesting about the Tai Chi tournament. Like, what are you seeing with the trends as far as the Tai Chi tournaments these days and the Tai Chi practitioners? What has changed over the years?
Yeah, I was actually one of the first Tai Chi students in America, and that was in 1958 or something like that when I started doing it.
Who were you studying with at that time?
The lady at the in Florida near the Vedanta Center that I was staying at. Mm-hmm. And I saw them doing it in the park, and I said, wow, that's for me. And that was it. I was hooked in 58, and I got really involved in 1960 and so forth. In those days, there was nothing but the martial aspect. You had to prove you were good at push hands, to show your true skills and so forth. It was strictly martial-oriented and a little bit of relaxation and so forth. But it was definitely a martial art in those days. And because of so many teachers coming over at that time, they started meeting each other and integrating with each other, and then it started getting softer because the American public is not into that martial stuff. And they were into self-healing. They wanted to learn how to heal themselves, and there's really nothing better on the planet than Qigong to heal yourself and to stay healthy, for heaven's sake. And it is simply moving in such a way to stimulate the meridian system, at least as I teach it. It is now. So I learned the martial aspect, and I started modifying it slowly. Then I started modifying it drastically, and now it's almost strictly Qigong. And it's a Taoist Qigong from my teacher.
Right.
And it's simply not only see the martial arts like the earth, connection to the earth. And then the meridian system is like the fluidity of the heart chakra, a center. And then there's the spiritual aspect, which is the cosmic aspect. Well, right now I'm almost doing almost all cosmic with my students. And it's simply mirroring the way the universe works, and the fact that there's expansion and contraction, and there's the gross changing to the subtle, and so forth, the evolution of the universe itself and the way the universe. So my theory is that like a tuning fork, if you hit a tuning fork and there are 100 others in the room, the one that's the same size as yours will resonate. It'll start resonating with it.
Right.
So if you're out there moving in all the ways that the universe is moving in and of itself, you start getting response from the entirety of the universe, actually. And that opened up a whole new dimension for me. And I mean, before that, it was like Taoist Shens kind of being close to me and helping me with my healing and so forth, in my clinic and so forth. But the influence now is greater than just from fellow beings. It's now almost like a planetary response.
Right.
And
so is that kind of like the practices are all going for the resonance, so everybody is kind of calibrated and working together? My own experience when we have classes and when we're doing a Tai Chi form or Qigong forms, when everybody is moving together, there's this nice kind of like little hum that's going on. Everything's good. If somebody makes a mistake, there's like, for lack of a better terminology, there's like a ripple in the force, something like, oh, there's a little bump there.
Yep, that's right. You actually get sensitive that way, and it's certainly helped in my practice to sense what people are all about and to get at the cause of their problem instead of symptom fighting like everybody else is doing these days. So as you subtleize yourself, see, the subtle can penetrate the gross, but not the other way around.
Right.
And so the more you subtleize, and a lot of people think they're going to go from bad to good or from dark to light. Yin-yang theory isn't that at all. You're not going to go from yin to yang. You're going to go from gross yin and yang to subtle yin and yang. That's what the universe is about. And keeping a balance between those two is absolutely critical. I'm seeing too many manic depressives around now, and the numbers are getting higher and higher. The people shooting for the stratosphere, ending up in hell and wondering how they got there. And then it's back to the stratosphere, back to hell, up and down and up and down, and where are you out in a hurry? It's like a smooth ripple on the ocean is I think, from my experience anyway, it's the way to go through life.
It's a cultivation. It's like, even in my work, I try to get rid of the whole concept of good and bad or, positive and negative or anything. Hey, we got a call coming in here. Hello. Yes. Got to talk to you later. This is fun. The universe has just bumped in. I'll talk to you in a bit. That was my broker. He told me to buy some oil futures in the. No, I'm just kidding. It's the cultivation thing. I mean, the whole idea is to there is no distinction between good and bad. That's like I think Shakespeare said it. There is neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. You try to cultivate a state of balance where you can move with whatever it is, and then you don't pass judgment on it. Sure. I think that's a source of a lot of people's pain and suffering these days, too. It's they're too wrapped up in the good and the bad.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just mean go with the flow.
Right.
When my early practitioner said, "Oh, Mark, just go with the flow, go with the flow." Well, when I met the Taoists, they said, Well, if you don't like the flow, change the flow. You know what I mean? It's like you don't have to accept everything that's coming to you. It's like whatever you accept, then you go with that flow. But you don't have to accept everything. You know, if you're flowing down the river and there's a rock in front of you, you don't have to smash into it. You can go out around it. Mm-hmm. And so it's more than just going with the flow. It's having fun with the flow. And you can manipulate the flow. Yeah, we all have aspects of the creator within us, so there's no need to not be creative and to change things if you don't like them the way they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the Taoist studies is to understand there are certain principles, like electricity works in a certain way, fire works in a certain way, and if you understand that underlying concept of how things work, then you can flow. You can kind of change fire how you want it to work. You can use it, electricity. You can channel that into whatever you want to. I think that's
right.
An understanding. But once again, all of this stuff, I think it comes from the cultivation, which has always been something that I've wanted people to understand. You got to practice this. You got to cultivate it. You know, too many people want to try a Qigong class. Well, that would be like, I always use the reference of trying a guitar lesson. You know, you go in for a guitar lesson, somebody hands you a guitar and said, "Okay, there's your guitar." So, well, what do I do with it? You got to spend time. Looks like we have a question here. So, Dan, are you there?
Yes, this is Dan.
Okay, What's your question?
So earlier on, you mentioned playing with the Qi or with your practice, and then later, just more recently, you talked about having fun. And is that more than just a mindset, or can you give some examples, or how do you know, I'm sure it's not something you can very easily or quickly explain how to do that, but what are some pointers in that direction of having fun and playing?
I see. All right, the distinction between the two.
Or not the distinction. No, not the distinction. Just in general, that whole thing, that whole topic. What can you tell us about that?
Okay, I pointed out at the beginning of the book that my definition of play is not just throwing a frisbee around on a sunny day. It's much deeper than that. There's a spontaneity to it, and there's an intuitive direction that goes with this kind of play. A child is not even capable of the kind of play I'm saying, because a child doesn't know consequences. In other words, people say, "Oh, look at that child, if we could just be like that child." Well, that's kind of more like being childish instead of childlike. The play of a sage is not the same as the play of a child, is what I'm trying to get at. The child doesn't know anything. He is spontaneous. The child is spontaneous, but he doesn't know anything else. That's why he's spontaneous. When a sage is spontaneous, it's a decision on his part to do it and to be open and to go with the flow and so forth. The child has no choice but to be spontaneous for a while. And so that's the difference. So I'm talking about a mature aspect of play that a child is simply not capable of. So I'm not talking about playfulness, but the play in the sense of like being in the zone, and where things flow so easily that you just kind of flow from one thing to another. And it doesn't mean there isn't challenges. You flow from one challenge to another, but you keep the flow going, and it's like it becomes fun, just plain fun. Life is fun.
Kind of like why all the Taoists were like smiling and enjoying themselves, because when you understand what the stuff is, then you know how to move through it. Did that answer your question, Dan? We have another question here.
It's a step. I'm still not quite getting it, but I think I'm starting to feel for it.
I think the play is being able to flow with something without any kind of judgment.
Okay.
Yes, that's part of it. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. We have another caller here, another question. 860-965-8451.
Yes, hi, this is Risa.
Hello, and what's your question for?
Yes, thank you for taking my call. I'm just wondering, Mark, if you can tell us a little bit more about your Qigong practice, what it involves, and what kind of things are you teaching your students?
Yes. I start all the students off with deep breathing and the importance of that. And why does deep breathing make you relax? It has to do with the vagus nerve and getting stimulated by the diaphragm. It isn't just a wives' tale that you do relax when you breathe deep. So that's the first critical step, because I've seen so many people that are breathing high into their chest, and it's actually aggravating the anxiety that they're feeling inside. And if you can start breathing deep, it actually releases some of that anxiety. So that's the first thing. Get them breathing deep, because without that, you're building on a house of cards. So once I get them breathing deep, and I have different kinds of breathing exercise, Taoist exercises and breathing, that's the first thing. And then I have them stimulate every cell in their body. It's a detoxification and a stimulant together. And then after about 10 minutes of that, where you literally use percussion of your hand on your body, it's detoxing and stimulating, and then every cell. And then after that, I open every joint in the body in a very organized way. This is something that's been bothering me. Like, people are jumping all over the place. And if you do it systematically, like with the neck vertebrae, and then the shoulders and the elbows and the wrists and the spine and the hips and the knees and the feet, see what I mean? Once you keep it moving continuously and in a very systematic way, the body knows what's coming next. But the jump from the ankles and then work with the neck and go to the shoulders, I'm finding that is the body just doesn't like moving that way, because it's not rhythmic and it isn't continuous. So anyway, that's the third step. Open every joint in the body. Then when you get done with that, I go into the six healing sounds and colors and so forth, with a Taoist twist to it, slightly different than what I've seen other people do. And then from there, I get into the auric body. This is kind of advanced now. For those that are still in the class, we get into those dimensions. The Taoists have 9 chakras instead of 7, which is quite fascinating. And so stimulating them and subtilizing them is part of the deal. Integrating them is also part of it. And then you start seeing auras and stuff like that. And it makes you get to know your client quicker, your patient quicker, when you can see those occasionally. And so that's the steps that I go through in everyone. And I have about probably 8. I have 8 DVDs of different styles. And so if it's a woman, I give them the woman's style, and so forth. And so there's a style for almost every disposition and temperament out there.
So how is that, Rosalie? I usually ask my students when they ask me a question, have I over-answered your question? That was good, though, Mark. Thank you. Now I want to take this little time here, talk about the NQA in a little bit. This is our invitation to join as a member. Okay. Some of you are members. Some of you are the first time who are listening to this talk. The NQA is a leading resource for Qigong study. We're like an umbrella group, not endorsing any one particular style or system. We try to pride ourselves on being a resource center for people who want to find out stuff about Qigong. And we're committed to diverse approaches, not one way but many branches. And as a member, you'll become part of a larger community, active research committees, networking opportunities, developing more webinars like you're listening to now. Like I said, this is our 3rd anniversary show, and this is quite the resource. We're always looking to add more benefit to members and the general Qigong community. Unlimited access to QiTalks. You guys are listening to this now, but as a National Qigong Association member, you can access the archives of all of the shows. I believe this is maybe Vicky's out there. She can channel in the answer here. I think this is the 20-something show, 24th or 25th. Unlimited access, and a lot of the talks have include World Tai Chi and Qigong Day founder Bill Douglas, Daisy Lee on Qigong for women, Garrett Paraskevich on Qigong for folks with disabilities, Carrie Sherman on Qigong for kids, Mike McComiskey, Qigong and spirituality. Ted Simic has spoken about Qigong perspectives on cancer, MS, and depression. Roger Yanka speaking about training practices and certification, ability to hear this call with MJ again and again. I did the first call. I did my Qigong for Recovery program way back in April. So these are all the benefits you get. And last but not least, you get a healthy discount to the conference. Our 20th anniversary conference is coming up July 17th through 19th in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. So you'll get a discount on that. So you got 3 levels of membership. You got a general, a practitioner, professional. Ordinarily, the annual fee to become a general member is $45. The practitioner member is $100, and a professional member is $150. But to thank you for joining us live this evening, we would like to offer you a special discount on the membership price. No matter which member level you choose, you can deduct $10 off, but this is only good for the next 24 hours. So to receive a discount, you can email us at info@nqa.org or call the office at 888-815-1893, or you can find us on the website, nqa.org. But be ready to give not only your name as a participant on this call, but also the phone number you called from so we can verify that you were really here and eligible for this offer. And this is like 24 hours, so act quick. The conference is coming up. Like I said, it's our 20th anniversary. We're going to have Mark Johnson. Yeah, you'll be there. You're going to be walking around somewhere, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Mark's been a pretty consistent presence at all of the National Qigong Association conferences. But Roger Yanka is going to be doing our keynote on Friday night. We have 20 presenters, all kinds of workshops, training. Saturday evening, we're doing this. We're calling it the Great Tao Wow, which is we're going to have a whole bunch of demonstrations. Francesco Solalatola, myself, a couple other musicians. We're going to be doing some chanting and music. It's just going to be all kinds of fun. And Francesco and Daisy Lee are also going to be doing our Sunday morning plenary. So drop by. This is a chance to really celebrate the 20th anniversary. So once again, you can sign up by email, info@nqa.org, call the office, 888-815-1893, or visit on the web, nqa.org. Now, as a member, you get a discount on the conference attendance, and the early bird discount is ending on May 15th. So that'll be Friday, May 15th will be your last chance to get a discount. It's a pretty sizable discount on the conference also. So take advantage of this stuff. It's a great way to, if you don't know anything about Qigong, there is no better way to find out about it. And if you're familiar with Qigong, come on and hang out with us. We're going to have a great time. So what we got here is it's about 20 after 9 right now. Are there any other questions out there? Anybody else want to take advantage of asking Mark Johnson a question before he skips town and leaves the country for 3 weeks? How often do you do your trips, Mark? Tell us about your
once a year.
That trip.
Sometimes you go twice a year, depending on how many people we get. But we try to limit ourselves to 10 to 20 people only so they can get more attention. And every morning it starts with Qigong for an hour, and I teach a little calligraphy class and a feng shui class and an I Ching class and blah, blah. So they got a nice, healthy dose of Qigong and Taoist philosophy in general.
And so you go to, you've been going where? China, primarily China and Tibet, or different areas? Or
Yes, mostly southwest China where the temples are, and the air is much. We don't even go to Beijing anymore. It's too unforgiving. And but we're in one temple after another, and it's the energy there is incredible. And some of those are my old teachers, and we have a heck of a time. I think it's one of the great tours on the planet, actually.
We have a call from. We have a question from Paris here. Paris, are you there? Hello.
Yeah, some kind of static or something.
Paris, can you hear me? Sounds like we're hello. Sounds like we got some major feedback. I don't know if you can turn down possibly your phone maybe, or nope, not hearing you good.
Yeah.
Okay, nope, it's not working. Maybe in the sake of time. Hello? Try that again. One more time, and then we might have to go to either the Facebook or the email thing. Paris, one more time. Hello.
No.
Yeah, it's still overloading. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Maybe you could just email the question, or if you're in touch with Vicky or something. Okay. So it is now 9:21. What I want to do is I want to take a little moment here before we have any kind of wrap up things. Maybe Paris, if you hear me, maybe try a different phone. The next month on May 14th, the next QiTalks will be with Francesco Garipoli. Francesco is going to be at the conference, so that's going to be something you want to see with Daisy Lee. So it's going to be, we're talking about how Qigong meets epigenetics, the fun exploration of how the emerging science of gene activation and deactivation smoothly maps into Qigong principles and serves to help explain why energy works. I see a wireless caller here. We're going to try another question. Hello, wireless caller.
Hi, Marks. My name is Bridget, and I have two questions. I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the Taoist deep breathing techniques, and if you can mention where I might find some more information about that. And also as far as developing a short or a long form practice when you're, a beginner, or, at what point should you really be, or do you see a difference in a short or long form? Thank you.
Take it, Mark.
Okay. What was the first question?
The first
Resources.
question was about the Taoist deep breathing.
Oh, yes. Well, the techniques I was taught strictly from the Taoist is I'm not allowed to, give them out because they can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. But there is a school of this similar stuff called holotropic breathwork. Some guy from Czechoslovakia discovered it. And he's open, and you can go to him and his groups and his trainers and experience that. It's quite phenomenal, actually, and powerful. But it's not for the faint of heart because, people have been repressing and depressing a lot of their life for years and years, and to have that uprooted by Qi itself, it's like non-talk therapy. It's therapy without having to talk about it. I know people that wash their hands 200 times a day, and they know why they do it. They just can't stop because it's energetic, basically energetic, and subconscious. So if you get the energy up and build up and bring that to the surface and deal with it, then you're free. But it can be scarier than heck sometimes.
If I can kind of jump in here a little bit, I think a lot of these practices, when you're dealing with like a lot of the deeper issues, like post-traumatic stress and all kinds of the deep-seated emotional stuff, you're probably better off studying live with a teacher. because a lot of people, when you're dealing with these issues, I would definitely go live with somebody, because there's all kinds of, a qualified teacher will know the contingencies if stuff starts happening. If you're doing it on your own, you might do more damage than good. So, check out resources and stuff, and but seek out a teacher, and rather than trying it on your own. Because a lot of time, one of my sayings has always been, you can watch a DVD, but a DVD can't watch you. So, so thank you for your question.
And by the way, I'm willing to work with her if she lives near me or can get to me. But I can't give anything out over the phone.
Right. It really does require, when you get into the deeper stuff, to really, with a person, with a teacher, with a qualified teacher. So let me tell you a little more about Francesco. He's a wellness advocate, musician, and Qigong instructor. He's the author of Qigong Essence of the Healing Dance and Tao of the Ride. He lived in China for years during an intensive study of martial arts, traditional Chinese medicine modalities, including acupuncture and Qigong. While there, he produced and directed the one-hour documentary titled Qigong, Ancient Chinese Healing for the 21st Century, which airs nationwide across the PBS television network and has been seen by over 88 million viewers. His instructional Qigong DVDs with Daisy Lee are respected around the world, with over 450,000 copies sold. His Wuji Tech venture provides brainwave feedback tools for personal empowerment. Promises to be an exciting show, and Vicki will be back hosting that. So, any parting questions, Mark Johnson? This has been a pleasure. You are free to go to China unencumbered. So.
Yeah, they're good.
Yeah,
good.
I mean, as far as suggestions for people, a little parting fortune cookie nugget before we sign off would be
practice.
Okay.
And cultivate. I am a graduate of the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and I saw a lot of artists that came to school with incredible talent, but they didn't have the stick-to-itiveness, the focus to bring that incredible creativity out in a usable way, or for it to even be useful to anyone else. So I've been very much impressed by that, by seeing that for a couple of years when I was in the art school. The importance of just doing it, and with focus and openness to further growth, further evolution in whatever field you're in. But this idea that I don't have to practice, I'm creative, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, the thing of it is, I think it's the kind of mindset where you need to cultivate every day without any expectations. You just get up and you do it. Like any musician, like any artist, you do your art. There's no expectations. It's just something you do. And what I've found a lot of times is when people really get into the mindset of cultivating without any expectations, that's when the progress starts happening. When you let go of the idea of doing it for a purpose, and you just do it. Make it part of your life. Make it part of your day. So, Mark Johnson, thank you very much. I hope everybody enjoyed this call. We're getting down to the last minute. I don't know if we're want to join hands and sing a song or something like that. Yeah, no, but that's good. I mean, I hope everybody has enjoyed the call. And once again, take advantage of the 24 hours to join the National Qigong Association. Get your discount. Come to the conference. Don't be afraid. It's never about the money. I've said for years, it's like if you have a desire to do something, get busy with it. Do it. I haven't been able to afford anything that I've done for the last 50 years, but that hasn't stopped me. So once again, thank you all for attending the call. Get in touch. That's Mark at Qigong, Mark Qigong at CHI hyphen
K-U-N-G. Yes.
Take advantage of the offer for the book.
All right. Okay.
And once again, thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful evening.